Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. This is episode 13.5 of Stay on Topic. To my left is my old chum, Bob Ricotta.
How you doing? Call me Buster Poindexter, because I am hot today.
Oh, my. And to his left is James the Boy Wonder Post.
I thought it was Danger.
Changes with every week.
Well, now I'm confused.
You're a man of many mysteries.
This week kind of did that opening in honor of the late Adam West, who just passed away yesterday as we're recording this.
And something struck me on a tangential note. A friend of mine passed away a month or so ago, and we were at the wake celebrating his life. And we were talking and saying, remember back a few years ago, 20 years ago or so, it seemed like every other weekend was a wedding. Now we're at that age where every other weekend is a funeral.
Yeah, it sure seems like it.
It seems like all our icons are dying, but that's our age. We're of the age where the people we grew up idolizing are aging out of life.
Aging out of life, and Adam West, he lived it. I mean, he died at age 88.
Yeah.
He lived a full life, and for probably 2 generations, turned people on to Batman.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was most of our generation's first introduction to Batman.
Yeah.
For sure. Through, 2.5 seasons of a syndicated show.
That's amazing that there's so few episodes, and yet it lives on in our memories so many years afterward.
And so impactful.
Yes.
2.5 seasons, and how many Catwomen?
Just
3.
Just the 3, right? Eartha Kitt.
Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar.
The hottest of the Catwomen.
I was a Yvonne Craig fan.
Okay.
Catwomen didn't even exist because Yvonne Craig.
All right. See, I was a Julie Newmar.
And she didn't even show up till season 2.
But interesting. I'm sure you guys know this because you're geeks. But interesting tidbit about Batman. Cesar Romero refused to shave for Batman, so they put the Joker makeup over his facial hair.
Yeah.
That's how little he gave a shit about the TV show. The great thing about Batman, the TV show, was it was pure camp, and Adam West was in on the joke.
Yeah,
whereas Burt Ward was not.
No, and for a long time, Adam West really resented that show because he found it hard to get work, and people only recognized him through that show.
Right.
And
it's
it wasn't
Leonard Nimoy syndrome.
Exactly. It wasn't till Tim Burton's Batman came out that he finally threw his arms around it, embraced it, and just rolled with it right till the end.
And what a second career he had on Family Guy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just essentially poking fun at himself.
Yes. I once again, in on the joke of being Adam West.
Yeah.
So, farewell, sweet soul.
Yeah. And also, we should get this out of the way. You want to hit us up with a topic or complain about us, hit us up on email at stayontopic111@gmail. You can hit me up on Twitter at Giltastrophe. You can hit up James.
At PostJM9.
Or Bob.
At Bob Ricotta.
And
once again, Chris, did you introduce yourself?
He did not.
I did not. I'm Chris Gill.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
There we go.
And that was underwhelming.
Yes.
And the secondary question,
You're underwhelming in person anyway, but
No, I'm much better in person.
I give my Twitter handle every week, but I mean, you guys have easy Twitter handles to spell. I should probably tell people that Ricotta is RECOTTA. I don't know what you'll get if you hit up Bob RICOTTA.
maybe someone more interesting. Who
Maybe.
knows?
Or maybe a lasagna recipe.
Yeah.
Which would still be more interesting.
James with all the burns today. Just a couple notes before we get into the real news of the week. New York State Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Ooh.
Just carpet bombing the place with F-bombs this week.
Spicy.
Yeah.
She told an assembled group at the Personal Democracy Forum, quote, "If we are not helping people, we should go the fuck home. And that should be our North Star. That should be our framing principle of what we are doing in public service." She also went off on Trump saying, Has he kept any of his campaign promises? No. Fuck no. So Kirsten Gillibrand is either just completely fed up or
She gives zero,
yeah.
or two at least,
Or positioning herself as a populist.
a foul-mouthed populist.
Well-
She's got the sailor vote down. But you know, I mean, Trump has rewritten the whole grab him by the pussy.
Yeah.
But
I
he
mean-
didn't say that. Like, he said that in confidence to somebody else.
But
It's
he's-
not like he put that out there on the campaign trail.
But he said it, and he still got elected. So all bets are off. All the rules have changed. Elected officials can drop F-bombs apparently now.
I mean, it's kind of refreshing if it happens once, but man, she just does not hold back. Like this, these are not
from
the
what
first
from what I've
F-bombs.
read. Yeah, that's been a thing.
Also, Kurt Eichenwald, you guys familiar with?
Refresh me.
He is a senior editor at Newsweek, and he's a contributor for Vanity Fair and the New York Times. He posted a selfie online
Okay.
of a newspaper with his computer monitor in the background. And people were picking up what he was looking at online and started reading the tabs that were open on his web browser. And one of them was for tentacle porn, who, if people don't know, James, you're our foremost expert in all things Japanese culture.
No, I know nothing about Japanese culture.
So his retort was that he and his kids, who are semi-adultish, were trying to prove to his wife that tentacle porn exists.
Yeah, I heard that.
I mean, maybe that was an earnest thing, but if not, wouldn't it just be easier to say, yeah, I'm into tentacle porn than to try to make
Well-
up that as an elaborate excuse?
The thing with tentacle porn, I feel like okay, I'm going way off into the weeds here. I'm going to do another thing on the scale of my abortion birth control run that I did, that I had to run by my wife before I would even post it. I feel like there should be safe outlets in pornography, animation for any kind of kink, any kind of fetish that people have. But tentacle porn is inherently non-consensual.
Correct.
It doesn't exist as a consensual form.
He referred to it as tentacle porn when most other people know it as tentacle rape.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
so glad we covered that.
And you know, it brings up really weird, uncomfortable questions about pornography. And as we get closer to, I mean, have you seen some of the sex robots out there?
Oh, yes.
They're damn lifelike.
And expensive.
Oh, sure. I mean, we'd have to pool our money,
Yeah.
but
Ew, and then we'd have to share it.
just hose it off.
Yeah, you guys just keep going. I'm gonna hit myself with a hammer.
Just
Yeah, I really meant for that to be a quick hit, not...
that's what she said.
James actually has a hammer.
It was either that or the power drill.
Oh,
Let's save that for the second half.
yeah. Also, Theresa May lost her Conservative Party majority in Parliament across the pond.
Out of pure hubris.
Yeah. Perhaps a sign of things whipping back, or much too early to tell.
Much too early to tell.
Yeah.
You know, this is definitely an all politics are local kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Mostly
for sure.
mostly a reaction to not really a good time for her. Her getting tagged with some of these attacks because of positions she's held in the past. Her promise not to hold snap elections, followed by immediately holding snap elections. All these things were a factor.
So I've not read a thing about it because I really don't care much about the British election. But what does this do to Brexit?
It's unclear.
I mean, it's done, right? It's not like you can just say, oh, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that now. I
That's-
mean, all the
under
wheels
the
have been
ru-
put in motion.
Under the rules, it's done.
Right.
But the EU was so eager not to have them leave that if a new PM came in with a solid base of support, which doesn't appear like is possible at this point. But if it were to happen before this process is too far along, I could see the rules being bent.
Yeah. They would give that train a little extra track before it ran out.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's...
So worth watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But I mean, right now, the biggest thing to come out of this is, what they call a hung parliament.
Beat me to it.
Which is, nobody has a majority, which means nobody can outright name a prime minister.
So they have
and there's, the conservatives control the most seats, but they don't have enough people on the right to form a coalition to be over the majority line.
Right.
They're going to have to team up with somebody on the left and probably to the left of Labor if they want to put together a majority. So who knows? Maybe something's happened in the last day. I don't know. I haven't followed it that recently.
The only thing that happened in the last day as it pertains to Britain is President Donald Trump, shivers, canceled his visit to the British Isles, and Theresa May could give a damn. She basically said, bummer, moving on. CNN fired Reza Aslan for calling the president a piece of shit on Twitter. So CNN is, I think, good on them for shit canning two people in a week's time, less than a week's time, for making them seem like a partisan arm of the media.
Yeah, but in the case of Reza Aslan, it is a little odd in that he's not a journalist.
Well, neither is Kathy Griffin, but you can't go around having people you employ doing shit like that and expect people to treat you as though you are that unbiased watcher, that uatu.
Wow.
Yeah. That's, going to look at things impartially. You can't have it.
But where's is a makeup artist for CNN allowed to say something like that? Or,
Oh, no. Yeah, I would imagine Phil or Danielle in the makeup department can probably tweet all sorts of horrible things about the president. Probably not going to get fired.
Technician? Is it just on-air talent that has to be objective before you lose your...
I would think on-air talent, producers, those types. I should know more because I watch the newsroom, and I should know more positions in it.
What about Monica in the wardrobe department?
Why is it a Monica?
Isn't that Janelle Maloney?
That's very,
yes.
It's very sexist.
Sports night.
Ugh, sports night. Hey, everybody has a miss. That was Sorkin's.
What do you call Studio 60?
Didn't have time to fully develop
It had 2 seasons.
No. Only had 1.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And even that was a little truncated.
It just seemed like 2 seasons.
The last 6 episodes were basically a 6-parter.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. But that's not the news everybody talked about this week. News everybody talked about was James Comey, former head of the FBI, going on record, under oath, telling people what went down.
Mostly.
Yeah, the parts he willingly left out were probably the most interesting of the entire...
Yeah.
But
we'll get there.
Yeah. So what did we learn after Thursday's... it was huge. It broke some TV records for daytime viewing.
Yeah, well, it matched Game 1 of the NBA playoffs.
That's massive.
Yeah.
That's a massive
19 million.
audience midday.
Yeah. What we learned depends entirely on who you ask. This week, since the testimony, there have been a number of articles from various news outlets trying to boil down James Comey's 4 or 5 hour testimony into some number of takeaways between 5 and 10. And I found it interesting to look at a couple of them. So Politico had 5 takeaways from Comey's testimony. And and you'll have to bear with me because this will take a bit. I am summarizing. This was much longer, but so Politico, number one, Comey didn't trust Trump from the very beginning, which is why he started taking notes from their meetings. He thought this guy was sketchy right from the start. After he met with him in Trump Tower, went out to his car, started taking notes.
And I according to 538, in the 3 years that Comey was director of the FBI during the Obama administration, they met a total of once.
Yeah.
During the 4 months that President Trump was president, they had 8 or 9 meetings. So
yeah, there were a lot of those kind of inconsistencies.
Yeah. So Comey, he had his instincts were correct on this about not trusting Trump from the beginning, I think.
Yeah. So Politico's number 2 takeaway. This one is really vague, which is despite Trump's effort to, quote, lift the cloud regarding Russia, it's only gotten bigger as a result of basically everything he's done to do that.
The cover-up is worse than the crime.
Yeah. And I took 2 big things away from this. That finally somebody said these things under oath. Because a lot of the stuff that he testified to, we knew. Like, it had been bandied about before. But now we have somebody that went out, that's under oath, it's on the record, balls in the White House court. The other thing, like we mentioned, was the stuff he said, yeah, I can't talk about that.
Yeah,
that is intriguing as hell.
And that's actually my next point from Politico. Number 3, Comey raised mysteries with his refusal to answer certain questions in an open hearing. He said basically that there are things that he would be happy to answer, but he would have to do it in classified session, including his opinion on whether the president colluded with the Russians, and why Attorney General Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself from the investigation, apparently other than the reason he gave at the time, which was his own involvement in the Trump campaign.
Right. Yeah,
It has since been reported that there was a third meeting between Sessions and the Russians.
Yeah.
That has not been substantiated at this time, but it is believed that that's one of the things that Comey could not talk about in open session.
Yeah. Number 4 from Politico. Beyond Comey going after Trump and the GOP senators going after Comey, trying to hit his credibility, there was, quote, collateral damage, that's Politico's quote, to former AG Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
She got hit hard by the revelation that, I mean, the main thing really was that she asked Comey to refer to the Clinton email investigation as a matter rather than an investigation, and some other things.
Yeah.
But that was the primary thing that he spoke to. But also to Jeff Sessions via that implication that there were other reasons that he may have recused himself, and to Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein, basically because he provided cover for the firing by writing that memo after Comey had already told him that he had concerns about Trump and his honesty. So that puts Rosenstein in a bad light from that perspective.
Yeah, and you haven't gotten to the other points, right? The counterpoints?
No.
Which, they're kind of hilarious.
Mm.
I mean, once Trump's attorney, and it's his attorney, it's not like White House counsel. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
His outside counsel.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of job he was performing later after that hearing, but my God, it was. He looked like a guy trying to logic his way out of drowning. It just. I don't know how you could be so unprepared for when everybody in the world knew exactly what James Comey was going to say.
Well, the party line is that Trump was vindicated because Comey said that he was not a target of the investigation. That was what that's what they're hanging their hat on. And I don't know that anybody believes that, even Donald Trump.
Right.
But that's all they have.
And I'm still not convinced anybody has anything linking Donald Trump to the Russians.
No.
It's all around him.
If Trump had not fired Comey, this would not have led to Trump. But he dug his own grave, hypothetically, by taking preemptive measures, I guess.
Yeah.
Official note from the producers of Stay on Topic. Bob Ricotta was not in any way threatening the life of our president, Donald Trump.
No, that was a figurative grave.
Yes.
Not a literal grave. But the thing that I took away from the Comey hearing is that, at least in public, the GOP is united behind Donald Trump still. Did you see the knots that John McCain tied himself into trying to make Comey look like a bad guy?
I didn't know what he was trying to do.
I'm not sure he knew what he was trying to do. He actually blamed the quality of his questioning on staying up late to watch the Diamondbacks.
Okay, well.
He issued a statement from his office saying the reason he sounded confused in the hearing was because he was awake too late the night before watching Arizona play.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
But this hearing provided an opportunity for moderates like McCain to start making a break from Trump, and they chose to stick with their president.
James is slowly unbuttoning his shirt.
Bow, bow, bow.
Yeah. I wonder if he's going to bring the hammer back out.
I know my hammer's out.
Wow. I have no idea what either of you are talking about. So that kind of leads me into Politico's point number 5, which is that the questioning and the spin afterward was largely partisan. Nobody really split from that line.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Just somebody have the balls to say what's so goddamn obvious.
Which leads me into my comparison list.
Nice.
Which is the 5 takeaways from the Comey hearings via Fox News. And I do this for contrast. I don't do this to target Fox News particularly, but I knew I would get a contrasting list from them.
You need something from the other side.
Yeah. So number 1, there was no obstruction of justice.
They're just stating that outright, huh?
Yes.
Period.
Full stop.
Number 2, the president was never under investigation. Number 3, there was no direct Russian interference in the election in terms of voting itself. Basically trying to say that the Russians weren't why Trump won.
But that's the one thing Comey said is absolutely there was meddling.
There was meddling, but they didn't hack the voting machines.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what Fox News is trying to say is, well, they may have meddled in messaging and messing with one side or the other's campaign and how they communicated with the voters, but they didn't hack the voting machines. They didn't change the vote totals. That's all we really care about.
Right.
Number 4, there is no evidence whatsoever of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia.
Wow.
Yeah.
And number 5, with only 5 points, they chose as their number 5, Loretta Lynch interfered in the Clinton email investigation.
Wow.
That was their major factual takeaway.
I'm somewhat surprised Benghazi didn't make it in there somehow.
And number 5 is valid.
Yes.
But if they're going to make a list of 5, why did that make the list?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Fox.
Yeah.
How? Confirmation bias. That's how they survive.
Yeah, and Politico is not MSNBC. That's who my first list was from. They're a fairly straightforward news organization. if they're anything, they're biased towards sort of wonkiness.
Okay.
They're the inside baseball, they're the Hill, they're,
Oh, they tried.
roll call.
Yeah.
They're a little more sensationalist than that, but they're certainly not hard left. So I didn't choose hard left versus hard right. I chose what I thought was relatively centrist, and maybe non-obvious.
Yeah. Right.
Which, if I wanted just the straight middle of the road, here are the takeaways, I would have gone with the AP.
Right.
Because they would have had the same takeaways that anybody who watched the hearing would have come up with.
Right.
But with no analysis.
No. So yeah, I mean, that's when Politico talks about, you could watch this thing and everyone's view of this is partisan coming out the other end. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
We also had, I don't know, are you guys good with the Comey thing? Because to me, there wasn't a lot there, and what there was there, we don't know about.
We can check off the list. Trump's a liar. Check.
Yeah.
There's more to this Russia story than we know. Check. Yeah, it's another nail.
Yeah. And I think most people, if you're bothering to listen to this, you've probably absorbed it from one source or another at this point.
Right. Well, you may not have absorbed is what's going on in the Georgia 6.
Yeah, that's an odd one. This I was reading on thehill.com a few days ago and stumbled across, because honestly I hadn't been following it, but they had a debate last week. I mean, this is to catch people up. This is a runoff election. They had a jungle primary,
which is not racist.
That was in, February, March?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Late winter.
And with like 20 candidates, ended up with the top two.
Because no candidate
got over 50%.
Right.
So now there's a runoff between the top two. That top two is Democrat John Ossoff,
who was the lead vote getter.
Yes. And Republican Karen Handel, who came in with 20-some%, but the Republican vote was so split in that primary that's really a meaningless number.
Right.
So they had a debate. They had a debate Tuesday. I did have that written down. I didn't think I did. And Ossoff was talking about what most people in the Democratic Party would call a living wage, raising minimum wages to the point where somebody working 40 hours a week, full-time, year-round, would be above the poverty line. That's how Democrats generally define a living wage. And depending on where you live, it's, $13 to $15 an hour right now. Except he used the phrase livable wage.
I mean, is that...
I don't know if that's a new terminology that people are using. I don't know if that was a slip of his tongue. I don't know what happened.
But we know the point he was...
Yeah, he was...
Regardless of how he phrased it.
He was talking about living wage.
Yeah.
And the response from his opponent was, quote, "This is the difference between being a liberal and a conservative. I do not support a livable wage." That's what Karen Handel said.
And that blew up.
And the follow-up to that is, quote, "What I support is making sure that we have an economy that is robust with low taxes and less regulation." What she said, in substance, wasn't really any different from what any conservative would have said in response to that line of questioning or debate.
It was just a really stupid way to say it.
But to take that word and I hate to assume that people are huge Machiavellian, if he intentionally and effectively fed that word into her mouth to get that soundbite out, that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's...
it's hard for me to imagine that was actually the case.
Especially in a live debate.
But she should never have repeated it.
No, the way she phrased it was just really bad.
All it did was give everybody the opportunity to take that quote out of context.
And if you're a politician, you just never lead with, I don't believe in blank. You go right into what you believe in, because then you can't get stung on things like this.
Yeah. Unless you're going to say, I don't believe in global warming. I mean,
You shouldn't say that.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's bad debate prep.
Yes. You just, in a debate, you should never take what's fed to you by the other side.
Correct.
You should always be phrasing it in your own terms.
Reframe the argument.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you get binders full of women.
Exactly.
Which I have at home.
Yeah, that was Mitt Romney accepting the premise of the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a West Wing, isn't
Yes,
it?
that was the late John Spencer as Leo McGarry. Yeah, that's had some impact on the polls. Pre-debate polls had them almost neck and neck, which in the Georgia 6th is amazing for a Democrat.
Yeah. And we looked this up because we've talked about this before on the show. This is a northern suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So just so people have an idea of where the Georgia 6 is and maybe how it operates compared to like a rural part of Atlanta, this is your suburb.
Yeah. Well, and it's a
So you get a good blend of right, left, and center.
Yeah, you got people who are commuting to Atlanta to work
Right.
and living in the Georgia 6th, which would indicate a more left-leaning.
yeah, but at the same, I don't know the demographics of the Georgia 6th. I really don't. I suppose maybe I should have read up on that if I was going to talk about this topic, but
That's
assumption is
usually
this is-
typical of any large city.
well, what I'm saying though is this is the Atlanta suburbs. Compared to Atlanta proper, I'm assuming it's whiter.
That seems to be a safe assumption.
And to that extent, probably more conservative.
Generally.
That's
But-
incredibly broad generalization.
But we're not
That's
talking rural Georgia
Exactly.
either. So
No.
these are people who have contact with.
Yeah, it's a relatively educated district,
Yes.
but like I said, I'm assuming probably less diverse than the districts probably that actually are in Atlanta.
Right.
But right now, I shouldn't say right now. Polls done Thursday, Friday, have Ossoff up 6 points.
Which is beyond the margin of error, correct?
Which, yeah, that's
The margin's what, 4?
the margin in that poll. Yeah, because it was a local poll, so I think it was about 4.
Generally, it's
Yeah,
3 to
that's-
4 points.
Well, if you do really good polling practices, you can get 3, but I'm pretty sure it was 4 in this case.
for a congressional seat, you're not going to get the best polling.
I think this was a local news poll.
Okay.
So, but there's 2 caveats to that, and that would be a big lead if it's true. A big lead for a Democrat in Georgia, replacing Tom Price,
Yes.
which was considered a pretty solid conservative seat.
Safe
Yeah.
district, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Price was nominated, because they knew.
Yeah, exactly. They knew they could fill that seat with whoever they picked,
Right.
but didn't work out that way so far. So yeah, has a lead right now according to current polls, but with 2 caveats. One is that there are at least 70,000 early votes that were already cast before the debate.
That's in Handel's favor.
Yes.
I mean, by pretty significant, I would think.
Yeah.
Because most people who vote early usually lean right.
And yeah, I don't know. I imagine that's different everywhere, but
The older folk.
I don't. Yeah, I suppose. And of course, the most obvious caveat. We're recording this on June 11th.
Correct.
The election is June 20th, which means there is more than a week in which anything could happen. Ossoff could be revealed as a Klan member between now and the 20th. Who knows? So, it's still really anyone's game.
So many storylines coming out of this one congressional district, though.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that we're still before the Comey letter relative to the
the
November
yeah.
election
Right.
in terms of time.
Right. And I've always been a proponent of early voting. I think we should do everything we can to let as many people vote as possible. But this does reveal one of the downsides of early voting is you vote
Yeah.
before you have all the information.
Right. Yeah, because what if one of the opponent or one of the candidates is unmasked to reveal Skeletor? And then you're like, oh shit, I voted for Skeletor.
Or against
Or- Awesome. I voted for Skeletor.
So, yeah, I mean, somebody
Do
may...
you need a beast man?
I need a beast man. Are
What's
you offering?
what's the oh god, no. There is a
Are you offering to be Mechaneck?
no, there is a guy with a legal name, He-Man, who is running for a Florida State Senate seat.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was given the nickname in anyway, yeah, he can legally be called He-Man on the ballot. This is a true story.
I'm changing my name to Panthro. That's it.
Is that really better than Lord Buckethead on the stage with the results of the parliamentary
I
elections?
kind of like Lord Buckethead.
Yeah.
I wish America had fun things like that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so what are your thoughts on early voting versus non-early voting? I mean, obviously in this case, it did a disservice to the process.
Right.
Yeah, and it can. In a way, early voting is no different than just opening absentee voting to everyone. But it is possible to sort of miss the story when you vote that early. At the same time, I think anything we can do to give more people the opportunity
Yeah.
to vote.
Right.
Um,
That's the conundrum.
I believe Election Day should be national holidays.
Amen.
I believe we should have online voting.
Hey, man.
Ooh, the Russians believe that too.
Well,
I know. I mean, yes, I believe in principle there should be online voting, but they've got to make triply, quadruply sure that it cannot be hacked.
Anything can be hacked.
that's why we have to have strong voter ID. Wait.
Ooh.
They're nice.
So yeah, what else is going on?
Guys do anything interesting? Remotely interesting?
No, finally, the weather's broken and it's beautiful out. And this isn't interesting to anybody except myself, but the town of Corning, which is a little suburb of Corning, whatever, they are making available community garden plots. You pay $15 a year and you can garden in this area. I have a poor yard for gardening, so I'm very excited that I can actually garden, grow vegetables. We have to donate 10 or 15% of what we grow to a food bank, food pantry. But that's what I'm most excited about this week is having someplace where I can grow vegetables.
Huh.
Yeah, it's in conjunction with our local school district.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a cool thing to do. It's a way to get the community to give back and to grow some organic stuff.
That's
And
a terrific idea, but I detest yard work, so I will never be part of that.
If you weren't aware, the district is actually considering the possibility of building a greenhouse at the high school that would allow them to start up some vegetables and allow people to use that as a starting point for their gardening.
Oh,
for
that-
the community garden.
Perfect, because
And obviously, great STEM opportunity.
Yep. And we've tried to start vegetables from seeds, but the cats keep pissing on them.
Yeah.
So having some place that's cat proof would be great. So yeah, I've been excited about that. I've been continuing my Kimmy Schmidt binge watching. I'm enjoying it. I don't have any new insight into it.
Right, yeah.
It is what it is at this
Just a
point.
lot of gags shoved in a
Yeah.
29-minute.
And Ellie Kemper is just adorable.
Just choose the button.
believe you said that 4 or 5 times over.
And I will say it again.
And before the show started. James, did you do anything fun and or interesting?
Well, I've been trying to keep up with E3.
Yep.
Wow, that's where you can see where the money goes.
Yeah.
It's all about production value here and stay on topic. I'm sure you already know we're all nerds. So E3, the big gaming show of the year, everybody shows up and shows off their best stuff. And we're sort of in the midst of it right now.
Yeah, as we're recording this, Xbox is still doing its presentation. So, we don't have all the information that we would normally have. So some of it we're going to have to hit on next week.
Yeah. So we've been through the Electronic Arts presentation, which I'd like to talk about a little bit. And we've been through the Xbox presentation, or most of it.
Yeah.
I actually had to stop watching it to start recording. There's a couple of points I'd like to bring in from there, and get some comment from Chris, and probably little to no input from Bob. So first of all, Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Is the new name for what was previously known as Project Scorpio. Previously considered to be the Microsoft version of the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Right.
Looking more like something else.
It looks like an absolute monster of a...
Yeah.
In terms of, tech terms, not so much physical.
Oh, no, it's incredibly small, actually. They said
Yeah.
it's the smallest Xbox that they've ever sold. But one of the first things they announced was to clarify that all of your controllers and accessories will still work with the Xbox One X.
Back compatibility.
Yeah.
Went on to say that all of your games will work with Xbox One X.
Lot of this, though, I mean, we knew going into this.
Well, but they felt the need to point this out. And
To say it officially.
if Jeff Keighley is correct, which he usually is, launching at a $500 price point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new console generation price point.
Yeah.
So my question is the Xbox One X the shadow launch of a new gen? And does this back up the rumors that have been swirling around for the last 2 months that there could be a PlayStation 5 announced by the end of this year?
I think we're back to where the consoles would improve incrementally back in the 80s and 90s, where you would get incremental improvements, and once in a while you'd get something like a Super Nintendo or a Genesis that took a big leap forward, and then improve incrementally, then get a big leap forward with the 360 and the PS3. They had almost a decade of life out of them.
Well, and that's the thing that's thrown a monkey wrench in everything. In corporate planning,
Mm-hmm.
in messaging, and consumer expectations.
Yeah.
Was that 10-year console cycle, which no one intended to be a 10-year console cycle.
No.
But no one knew that in the middle of it would be the largest market crash since the Great Depression.
Right.
No one thought it was a good idea to ask people to shell out for a new console. No one even started development until after we were mostly through that, which is why we didn't see launches until 2013.
Well, and really the only reason was the advancement in television technology. The televisions were getting so much better, and the game systems didn't have good enough things to put up on those screens.
Yeah.
That's really what drove the next gen, or the PS4, Xbox One gen.
So if you consider that
And the Wii U gen.
if you consider that we're in mid-2017 and the PS4 and Xbox One launched in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and if you look at the life cycle of PS1 and PS2, Xbox, what those used to be,
Right.
this wouldn't be an unreasonable time to be announcing a next generation.
No. But the economy ain't what it appears to be.
No.
I mean, we're three middle-class guys who are probably closer to lower middle class,
Yeah.
just based on our incomes.
Speak for yourself if you're middle class.
James is sitting with his shirt open.
Because you can't afford AC.
That's true.
And I'm not shelling out for a new system. And we're the demo. Like, we're the people they're trying to sell this shit to.
Yeah.
Can you afford to buy a new
I
system?
just bought a PS4 and a regular PS4. Not even a Pro.
What's a pro?
It's 4K, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no way in hell I could afford that. Just based on my take home and, trying to eat.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're getting these. If they're looking at Wall Street and saying, oh, the economy's better. No, it's just fucking Wall Street that's better.
Yeah.
It's not better for your core audience at all.
If Microsoft and Sony, holiday of 2017 or even holiday of 2018 are looking for another $500 from me, it ain't happening.
No, it's not happening for next holidays. Like, not this one coming and the one after that. There's just no way.
I'm far from their target demo, but I just bought a PS4. If they're going to come out with a PS5, I'm going to say screw it, buy a gaming computer and re-up World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and just run system updates.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty entrenched with consoles. James goes both ways.
That is true.
So I also liked the first looks we got at the Shadow of War, the follow-up to Shadow of Mordor. Fantastic. From what we saw of the new Assassin's Creed, wasn't much, but it was pretty cool. It's set in Egypt, so that'll be fun. And Battlefront 2, we actually saw gameplay from, not just a extended trailer with animation.
The problem with Battlefront was it was only online, right? There was no missions or anything, right?
No, there was no single player.
There were
whatsoever.
tutorial things that you could play single player, but no storyline or anything.
Did they fix that?
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the game looks great.
Yeah.
And we since yesterday, there's actually been some footage released of a single player mission, so we know it exists. My question is, 2013. 2013 is when EA acquired the exclusive license to produce Star Wars games.
Right.
And so far, all we've gotten is Battlefront.
And some mobile games.
Yeah. But not even we've known this Amy Hennig game was around for years.
Right.
Ever since 1313 fell apart. But, what are they doing with that IP? I know Battlefront's made a lot of money. It'll make more money. But Star Wars has got to be, there's got to be shareholders, there's got to be board members who are saying, where is all of my Star Wars money?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. But EA is so big.
It's 4 years. 4 years is plenty long enough to develop a new game from scratch.
And when you consider the first Battlefront was just Battlefield with Star Wars skins on it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll cut them a little.
Yeah, it's not like they threw all their resources at Battlefront 1.
No. Or they did, trying to get it out when they did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 2-year turnaround from the time they signed on the dotted line to getting it out on store shelves in November 15. That's not a lot of time to develop a game from the ground up. Give them a little slack.
But plenty of time to develop a reskin.
Yes.
So
that's what we've seen so far. We have yet to see Sony's presentation or Ubisoft. I haven't seen anything from WB Montreal about the next Arkham game, which was...
Is there going to be one?
From WB Montreal, not Rocksteady.
Okay. So crappy.
Yes.
Okay.
Not crappy, just not well thought out.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
I thought Origins was pretty bad, and then I had to play the PC version of Arkham Knight, and Origins didn't look so bad to me anymore.
Origins was not a bad game.
No.
It was just there are a few things that were head scratchers that are too minute to get into
and
right now.
their failure to fix a lot of the incredibly obvious bugs.
Yeah. Some of which you couldn't even advance in the game because of.
But I did want to get your take on, I know you only had a chance to see it briefly, but by next week we'll be beyond talking about it. Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yes. This was leaked about a month ago.
Yeah. But, just, at the Microsoft press conference, saw a trailer and then saw some gameplay footage.
Yeah, that's a franchise that really needed rebuilding. And
they're rebuilding it from the ground up, apparently.
They put in some time. They knew they had a problem right after Unity, which will be 3 titles ago.
But do you like the way they're going?
I'll have to play it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I mean, because they're going towards a combat system that looks a little bit like Dark Souls. Obviously not that hard.
Right.
But nothing like the
not the free flow combat.
I want to say like Arkham style combat, except it came before Arkham. But the counter focused combat.
Right.
This really seems more like a Dark Souls, more like a
God of War type.
God of War. I'm thinking almost Ninja Gaiden, the good ones. That kind of combat system. We've got loot drops from enemies of weapons with different specs, rather than just I need enough money to upgrade my crossbow from this to this to this.
And homing arrows.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there.
That feels like cheating.
I don't know if that's a power, because that's the other thing is you've also got a strong taste of the supernatural. Yep. You've got a scene in the trailer of him fighting a giant snake.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got experience points, level ups, and skill point assignments. All new to the series.
Yeah.
We're sounding like World of Warcraft all of a sudden.
Not everything you could just as easily say it sounds like D&D.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will.
Okay.
Because those things I understand. The last 50 minutes have been gibberish to me.
Okay. But yeah, to somebody like me, those things make a new Assassin's Creed. I didn't play Unity. I didn't play Syndicate. After Black Flag, I was basically done. I felt like I was one of the strange people who felt like I wanted the modern day story to go somewhere, and felt cheated in 3 when it really didn't. And they really set it aside and haven't touched on it much since then.
Because there was overwhelming support against it.
Yes. But I was invested in it by that point.
It would have been nice to have
players who followed
some
the series were. But no, when you're talking about, I could kill a random guard and he could drop a unique crossbow with some special power, that's got me back again. But I don't know about the average Assassin's Creed player, and that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I welcome it. I welcomed it when they did crafting, and they threw that in there for 3. I'm one of the few who will defend 3. I enjoyed it immensely. And they had a skill tree in Syndicate. So they've slowly been working up to this kind of almost rebranding of... But then you look at some of the other action-adventure games...
I was just happy to see a crouch button.
Instead of just walking into leaves and crouching down automatically.
I want to be able to actively go into stealth. Why was that so hard to get to?
Yeah. And you look at a game like Zero Dawn, which I platinumed just today. That's my 11th platinum since April 2014.
I have 0.
I know.
Because I don't care.
I'm a completionist. I have to do it.
I want to see how the story plays out, and then I'm done.
But yeah, I'm really anxious to see what else comes out of E3 tomorrow. And later tonight, Bethesda's having their big thing.
Yes, 9 p.m. Pacific, which will be midnight Eastern.
Yeah.
I do not work tomorrow.
Oh, all-nighter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. I just want to shove you guys in a locker. Nerds.
Oh, yeah. From Captain D&D.
So also this week, well, it was last week, the Leftovers had their series finale. Very cool wrap up to a really unique, cool show. I'll miss it. But they didn't draw it out. It was 3 seasons and done. That's the way any good series should be. Also, got to see Wonder Woman. It's no probably about it. It's the best DC movie since Dark Knight. But
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
what are you comparing it to?
Well, better than Dark Knight Rises.
I think so.
Okay. I didn't like Dark Knight Rises, obviously,
Didn't care
nearly
for
as
it.
much as
no.
But it was a movie made by adults with an attempt. I mean, it was not monkeys throwing shit at the wall like, you know, the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. So that's a stronger comparison than to the more recent DC movies, anyway.
Thematically, they finally gave you a hero that you could root for, or that you were absolutely clear of what motivated them.
Yeah.
Finally, you got that out of a DC movie. They've been terrible about that.
Yeah.
Even in Suicide Squad. Okay, they're bad guys, but why are they motivated by what? I mean, it's all this kind of bro.
Well, and Suicide Squad should be all about motivations,
right?
Yeah,
and none existed. But yeah, Wonder Woman. The first 2 acts were really well done, except for some clunky edits and things that you've come to expect from DC movies. But yeah, the 3rd act they really kind of blew it. They set it up.
Makes me so sad.
They set it up to do something really cool, and they blew it. And Zack Snyder's got writing credits on it.
Yeah,
and it was.
I don't want you to spoil it.
I know.
No,
but
spoil
it. Did they blow it by failing to understand who Wonder Woman was?
A little bit.
It's God. How often do they have to? How often does that come up?
It's almost like
they don't understand Superman. They don't understand Batman.
Well, they rushed through some parts of it, and then the parts they did spend time on, they chose wisely. And this was director Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
Who is all about character. She's never done a big FX movie in her life.
Yeah. But I thought a great choice for this film.
And I would have loved to have seen what she directed.
Because you don't think she directed the 3rd act.
I really don't.
Do you think it got taken over? Do you think it got completely blown apart in editing?
Somebody wrote, there's way too much money spent on the 3rd act to have it be an accident or an add-on.
Yeah.
I want to see Patty Jenkins' version, not Patty Jenkins directing a version of what fits in with Zack Snyder's universe.
Yeah.
So was Wonder Woman the great feminist manifesto that people wanted it to be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And they didn't club you over the head with it. They got those digs in there and moved on.
Okay.
The big driving thing was just her character. Why is she doing this? And, you know, her journey from going from a very isolated space to the bigger, wider world and finding out about stuff.
And what is next for the DC universe?
Justice League in the fall, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They're not giving Flash and Cyborg their own movies?
Flash, they can't find a damn director.
Yeah.
They've had 2 directors either walk out or get fired.
Okay. So they're going Justice League and
They're just gonna stitch together 2 episodes of the TV series, air it in theaters, and pretend they didn't realize.
which would be fine with me because I love the TV series.
Yeah, so, but Wonder Woman, yeah. The modern DCEU, the best of.
Where does it rank among the Marvel universe?
I'm not going to put it Marvel. I'll put it like just comic book movies in general.
Okay.
Probably top 15.
Okay. Not high rated.
Better than Ant-Man.
Wow.
They did some things better than Ant-Man. Ant-Man had a better 3rd act.
Better than the Dark World?
Well, Ant-Man had a really good 3rd act, though.
Yes.
Ant-Man's 3rd act was not any of its problems.
Yeah, and when you see it, you'll know it immediately. Like, God, I don't know who's editing.
All of a sudden, there's no daylight ever again.
Well, and I cannot pronounce the island.
Themyscira?
Themyscira.
Okay.
I think Bob hit it.
No, there's no R before the M. It's Themyscira.
Okay.
Themyscira.
Now I want to give you a swirly. Anyway. So that was beautiful. Looked gorgeous. And then they cut to that stupid goddamn muted blue silhouette type color scheme that they have in Man of Steel and BVS.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you doing this to these movies?
Should I go see it?
It's worth it. It's worth
Okay.
the money. There are beats and things in it that are absolutely make it worth it. It's not Suicide Squad, leave the theater and be like, God, I'd like to have that $10 back.
Is there a moment in the movie where Wonder Woman defeats her enemy, gets them in the lasso of truth, and wins them over?
Sorta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's my thing, is that she's not your average superhero. She's fundamentally different in the way that she was envisioned.
And
And
She doesn't just beat everybody down and throw them in jail.
forgive me, but during my senior year of college, I took a course where I had to take a book and write about it from different perspectives. I picked The Lord of the Rings, and one of the perspectives
Of course you did.
Of course I did. One of the things I had to write about was a feminist perspective. And I learned that being a feminist is not a woman being a man, basically.
right.
So does Wonder Woman, is she just a man with boobs? Or does she show some kind of feminism, femininity? Femininity?
Yeah. Her character, they build that, in really the first act.
Okay.
And it's carried throughout the second. And then that transition from the second act into the third, they had it all right. Again, aside from some typical DCU bad editing and head scratching things, then they went batshit with it. And you're like, why? If that would have followed the trajectory that they had set up for the whole damn movie, it would have been a damn fine movie. And it would probably be top 5.
Last question. Was she American enough?
Too Israeli.
Wow.
Gal Gadot, the lead actress, is from Israel.
Gadot.
Gadot.
It's not Gadot.
It is, James. I'm just going to fight you on that one. Also,
she's not French.
she's Israeli.
Yes, she is. And the Israelis would not pronounce DOT with the T silent.
This is how I choose to pronounce it.
Okay.
So real quick, everyone loves Spaceballs.
Oh, yeah.
Rick Moranis' Dark Helmet is being auctioned. And the bidding is currently at $12,000 to have Dark Helmet's actual helmet.
I thought you were going to say remake. And I was just going to shut off the recording.
So can I tell you my Spaceballs moment?
Yes.
So I went to Mansfield University to see Max Brooks talk about World War Z. Max Brooks being the son of Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
So I got to ask a question. I was one of the audience members that got to ask a question. And I said, you had a lot of great voice talent for the audiobook. Can you talk a little bit about that experience? And he said, actually, we are redoing the audiobook to include all the chapters because they excerpted it.
Okay.
And he said, we're redoing it to include all the chapters. And I said, merchandising.
And he
Well
looked
done.
at you completely blankly.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I quoted his father to him, and he didn't get it. But I was internally proud of myself.
He just pretended he didn't get it. Backstage, he was like, fuck that guy.
We done?
I think we're done.
All right. Play us out, James.
Bye.